Partnership. I'm really happy to be here, mostly because the Global Partnership has just reached a major milestone, which in many ways is a product of the entire partnership. This really represents months and months of work that has really touched on many facets of the entire partnership to really bring this together. What we've been working on over the last several months is a process to look at how data roadmaps for sustainable development can be developed. Through that partnership, what we've been working on is creating a toolbox for the development of both country and subnational level data roadmaps that are really looking to bring together all the different guidelines, best practices that all the amazing partners around the world are working on to address data challenges, both from dynamic, disaggregated, real-time information, but then also looking at official monitoring data. The idea for this toolbox is that it really is meant to promote lessons, the exchange of lessons, resources, and good practices across countries and cities, and most importantly, be country-led according to local priorities, aligned with national strategies and plans that countries are already working on. Sanjeev expressed this earlier, there is this interaction that's taking place between official data for planning and monitoring and then what we're calling data for action. When you start looking at all the different opportunities, data like geospatial information, citizen-generated data, privately held data, and open data, can really, how that really supports better decision-making through more efficiency, frequency, and cost-effective ways of bringing this information together, looking at real-time dynamic data, and really looking at innovative approaches for how we can tap into this great network of partners that we have, but also how these types of data are able to help fill data gaps when we're looking at the broader indicator framework. So the toolbox is not meant to be just a technical solution. There is a roadmap process, a technical roadmap process, but it also touches on a number of other operational considerations going from governance and leadership all the way up to technology and innovation. Now again, this is really a collaborative effort. This work was developed initially through the Data Roadmaps Working Group that has over 60 organizations that are involved in it. As part of this beta release, there are a number of organizations that have contributed to it. All the organizations this is very multi-stakeholder, where you have government, civil society, and private sector that have been involved in this collaboration. And the logos that you see here are really those that have contributed to the beta product, but there are many others that have contributed to the broader discussion. So now you can go to data4SDGs.org/toolbox. What you'll find there is a menu of different modules that will be included as part of the toolbox. The key categories for this toolbox are around how do you look at different methods for creating a data roadmap? What are the different types of modules that will help you think about data for action? There's modules in there also for looking at official statistics for the SDGs, and then looking at different types of capacity building, financial and administrative types of issues. Currently, as part of the beta release, there's 8 different modules that are going to be released. This is going to provide a guideline for developing data roadmaps. The Sustainable Development Solutions Network and their SDG guide, which provides a lot of information on getting started with the Sustainable Development Goals. Making use of citizen-generated data, a contribution from Civicus and others. Looking also at how telco data, this real-time information, can really support SDGs and sustainable development. There's an expert group that's being assembled to create that module. Our friends over at Open Data for Development and the International Open Data Charter Networks on developing an open data module for sustainable development. Again, Sustainable Development Solutions Network, but then also the working group on data roadmaps, creating a minimum essential data package, looking at how you can evaluate baseline data for the SDGs. Paris 21 and their advanced data planning tool for looking again at data gaps analysis and cost estimates. And our friends at Plan International and ICRBS looking at how you look at technical solutions for really bringing in CRBS data. So I'll stop right there. This is really representing the launch of the toolbox. It's live now on the website. Everything with the Global Partnership happens very much in real time, so the modules are getting loaded as we speak. But I think you should be able to go there and play around and find a lot of great information. And I just want to take a moment just to congratulate all the partners who've really contributed to this. So thank you very much.
of you know who worked with Aditya, he's been a tremendous leader, and so I want to say again how much Aditya has done to make this happen. As you also mentioned, and I want to move to our panelists from the regional commissions, this is a work in progress. We know that it's early days, we're learning together, the partnership is a network of networks, but part of what we want to do with these roadmap processes that we're learning from, as we heard in the first panel, is to work with our colleagues in the regional commissions, who are really working to scale these efforts in their regions, Latin America, Asia, and Africa represented here, but all over the world. Among the greatest anchor partners we've had have been the regional commissions, and so we're so grateful for them to be here, Shamshat, Alicia, and Giovanni. And really the big question is, how can we all continue to work together to advance this data work? What's happening in the regions? Where do you think the biggest opportunities are, and perhaps the biggest challenges are?
First of all, Sanjeev, I think you need to be congratulated, and also your team, for doing such a remarkable job in such a short time. I recall when I was approached to become a champion, so to speak. I wasn't sure how this would work, but I think you have really adopted a very dynamic and open partnership, and you have made sure that you have put in place the right inputs. So the team needs to be definitely congratulated. I represent, of course, the Asia Pacific Regional Commission. As all of you may know, it is home to some of the more advanced developed country statistical databases. But the dilemma is that over half of our countries are least developed countries, landlocked and small island economies, and that's where the demand is. As regional commissions, we are intergovernmental platforms, so we have also statistical committees which are basically represented. There are all the representatives from the statistical agencies that are steering our process, and that gives a lot of ownership, and it's a real power base at the regional commissions because the chief statisticians of the region are running. So it's a great place to have interaction, and I was very happy that you had come to Bangkok also. I wanted to just mention a few things. Just when the SDG process was conceptualized, I kept on saying again and again that without statistics we're not going to get SDGs going anywhere. So we have structured ourselves a little and prioritized our activities because you can't do everything. And one of the first things that we've done is to develop an yearbook of this year. Our yearbook on statistics has tried to catalog as to where each country is in terms of the SDG data. What is the outcome of that? That we have found that basically over the data that we have is all the SDGs data that we have is only half of the indicators that have been defined for this SDGs, with Pacific sub-region substantially below the average. The data we do have is often 3 to 4 years old. Disaggregation is complex, but available. Typically, it is limited to sex, rural-urban location, and there are, of course, differences in measurement also in the disaggregation particularly. So regional comparability is difficult, and since we are regional commissions, at the end of the day, when the national agencies report to us, we have to make sure that we are offering a regional comparative analysis. The key thing is in this whole process is, okay, you start the work, but how do you scale it? Because we have to move at a certain pace. We are actually developing a collective vision and framework of action, and it is totally a consultative process. And in this consultative process, of course, we've had several layers of consultation, but we are going to have a conference this August, which will talk about this vision and framework, and it will be adopted. This hopefully will then go to our Committee on Statistics in December, and as I said, this is critical for the ownership. The second thing we're trying to do is to nurture a range of partnerships. And in the partnerships, we of course have a regional, but we are going very strong in our interface at the sub-regional level. ASEAN, which is one of the bigger and more advanced part, we are focusing with the ASEAN statistical body and talking to them and working closely with them. Similarly, there's SAARC, and as everybody knows, we have the South Pacific Statistical Community. So there are different layers of partnerships that we are evolving. The other thing that is going to be very instrumental from a UN point of view is that I chair this Regional Coordination Commission, and under that mechanism, and under that we have identified number one priorities, data development and statistics. So all the UN agencies collectively that are based in Bangkok are going to work on it. Of course, there's a lot of the details in it, but the last point within our architecture is the statistical institute that is located in Japan. That has been now resourced by Japan, and we are trying to provide widespread statistical training, moving from the traditional, which we will have to continue because basics are very important, but we are going to now switch to the SDG more and more. And we are aligning the statistical division on the institute's work program so that we can develop. As far as the building the partnership on big data is concerned, of course, we are learning like everybody else is, so we'd like to learn more, but we are a part of the global working group on big data for official statistics. We are conducting a study to harness methods and tools for using big data for official statistics and tracking the indicators of the goal. More specifically, we are analyzing a sandbox of more than 23 disparate sources of big data in partnerships with the private providers, in telecommunications, social media, in Japan, China, and the Republic of Korea. I'm going to stop here. I think there is a lot of other partnerships that are going on between our SCAP and other partners that are involved, and of course there's a lot of things that one can learn from the new initiative. Thank you, Sajeev.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Sanjeev, and thank you very much. I am really a champion of this initiative, no question about it. Let me tell you, let me give a different perspective of where do we need to go, I guess. First of all, I think we need to understand that Agenda 2030 and the SDGs are really about changing the way we live, the way we work, the way we relate among ourselves. And this means to change the scale, the scope, and the complexity of how we are working. And I guess that that means a lot in a region like mine, as we can say, but for the world as a whole. I think that we need to understand that we are confronting a paradigm shift of big proportions. And that means that the business as usual is no longer sustainable in many fronts, for many reasons. One, because we are not growing or trading or whatever. Secondly, because inequality is growing. And third, because environmental questions are so profound and so holistic. We don't have a capacity, nobody, big data, small data, micro data, to really understand I would say that the failure of our generation, which is climate change. So I really believe that we are confronting tectonic shifts of major, and that's what I think this global partnership should transmit. They're not I mean, and I perfectly understand the SDG toolkit, which I think is extremely important because, of course, we all know that data is going to be important for anything we do. But for me, leaving no one behind means that no one should be invisible. So that means that we have to disaggregate data, that we have to bring everybody up front, all the regions should be connected, etc., etc. And what happened from my perspective is that the World That Counts, this major report that we put together, a group of, and Stefan is here, you were part of the group, and many of us, some of us are here still, and the global partnership in a way is a response to that, or totally, I would say. And I think that it was an eye-opener to the Stefans, to the Alicias, to the, I would say, to the status quo. Why was it an eye-opener? Because big data still is probably in the hands of the private sector, basically, hello. And the public sector has the National Institutes of Statistics and the business as usual. How to connect these two guys, you know? The structure, I mean, let me be very open, but frankly, I mean, the National Institutes of Statistics are here, the big data is here, and they're not talking to each other. And they are not talking to each other, and they are afraid of each other, actually. So when we talk about these ideas of building new innovative ecosystems of information and data, we're talking about a profound change in our minds, in the institutions, in the things we're doing. So I wanted to start by that because I really feel that we need to understand what we're doing in terms of the amount of things that we have to, what is confronting us, in front of us for the next 14 years is not only how do we measure what we already are measuring better, but how do we change our mindset completely and to find, I would say, the critical links. My problem I see still is that we still measure poverty and then water sanitation and then I don't know what and then the other. The important thing is how do we understand the critical links between education and labor and data and technology and the things we are going to confront now, because what's happening today is that SDGs comes together with the fourth industrial revolution, which means that we have to bring together the physical, the digital, the biology, you know, and this convergence between all these, the nanotechnology, the biotechnology, the genomics, the I don't know what, is driving us crazy. So the thing is, we are trying, I guess all of us, including my institution, we're trying to put all these together. And how do we do this? In ECLA, we have developed two things, I guess. One is an analytical framework, that is to think through the Agenda 2030 out of the box. When we say out of the box, we're talking about three areas of work. One is that the world needs a new Keynesianism. Sorry. This is not about what we're going to do individually, country by country, that the sum of the national initiative is not going to change the world that much. It's going to change the world, indeed. But we need something else. And we need collective action, and that's what we are missing. And we need to build systems that can engage collective action in the economic front, in the trade, in the growth. The second thing, that we are trying to do this in Latin America, is the Schumpeterian world, which is how do we bring in innovation and knowledge in our productivity, in our production and consumption, you know? So what Gaviria was saying very importantly, they never measure how much food is wasted in our countries. No, because we don't think like that. We have to think on the circular economy. So we're going to think on the, so what I'm trying to tell you is that we have to develop some concepts, very critical concepts, and then understand what we want to measure. We don't want to measure the business as usual. We have to, of course, we have to do that homework, but we also need to move a step forward and say, what else do we need to measure? We need to measure the circular economy, the recycling processes or whatever. Then we have to measure, I don't know, for example, for me, a critical link in Latin America is jobs, education, and the gender equality, because it's not happening, and inequality as a whole. So my point is, so let's develop an analytical framework. The third point, I said Keynes, Schumpeter, and the third one is for me the big environmental push. The world is about, we have to change things. And the way to change this is to really go into a big environmental push. That is, everything we do has to have environment, and that is investment. Whatever we do, water, whatever we are doing in our everyday lives has to have that component. Now, to understand what we're doing, then we need to measure. Fine. So what we're trying to do after putting together an analytical framework that is here. For anybody who is interested, I don't have time to develop it, but it's here. The 3 dimensions, Keynes, Schumpeter, and the environmental big push. Then what we are doing in NECLAC is to develop a regional architecture system, which includes a regional forum for sustainable development for the countries of Latin America and the Caribbean that brings together the 33 countries decided by them. And then we have 7 subsidiary bodies that will report to this forum. One of the most important subsidiary bodies is the Conference of Statistics of the Americas. The conference, and you have been with us, Stefan, but my God, the Conference of Statistics of the Americas brings together all the national institutes of statistics. So move those guys towards the big data, towards the new world. Hello, it's very complicated, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. And these guys want to own the SDG follow-up. Hello, no way, you know? Of course, including probably the Commission on Statistics. You want to be the ones, which is perfect, but it's not sufficient. We need the others too. So we do need the statistics, fine. Then we have the planning. The planning ministers are so important because you have to incorporate the SDGs on the plans, on the budgets. If this is not budgeted, forget it. No, it's like the UN. Oh, the UN is for development. Okay, you know how much is the budget for the UN for everything except peacekeeping? $2.5 billion, and for peacekeeping, $18 billion yearly. So come on, let's put our resources where we want, okay? Am I wrong? I'm not wrong, you know that. So the thing is, if we want a world that counts, we need a world that puts the money where they want it. Okay, so, I mean, don't do that. Number 2. So, the planning process in each country has to go together with the budget. And the fiscal policies and the finance ministers have to be part of this, otherwise we're not gonna make it. And then we also have to put in together the women. I think gender equality, please.
Yes,
that is not goal 5, it's all the 17 goals.
Yes, ma'am.
So we need an observatory of gender. We need to disaggregate gender. And we need to disaggregate information on the indigenous peoples and all the, you know, the special groups that we need to put forward, and we don't have that yet. So that's something we need to do. So the 7 subsidiary, and finally I have to say that one of the subsidiary bodies that is going to report to the Regional Forum for Sustainable Development is one that is for me extremely important, which is science and technology. We are bringing all the ministers of science and technology together with the telecommunications. Why? Because in Latin America we need to create a single digital market. You know, we do have 700 million mobile phones, okay? Perfect, mobile phones, very nice. We have 600 million people, so we have more mobile phones than people, fine. But the problem is that only 1% of these people have 4G access, 1%, okay? So that means that mobile, thank you very much, or in 2G or 3G or whatever, you need 4G to really move on, or 5G at the end of the day. So we need infrastructure, we need investment on digital economy, because otherwise we're not going to close the gap. So we need a regional architecture, we need national investment, we need everybody on board, but most of all, we need to make everybody visible. A world that counts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be here, but I don't know what I can say now after Alicia. I think she said everything with so much passion, and we were all actually hanging on your words. So let me try, and especially after also hearing the country representatives talking about the reality on the ground and what's happening in an individual country when it comes to data revolution, statistics, and the SDGs. So I think that Alicia has said a number of things that also apply to ECA, to the work that the Economic Commission for Africa is doing, but also in terms of what's going on the continent. So I'm going to say a very few things in terms of the challenges that we are facing, the opportunities for partnership, but also a little bit about the architecture at the ECA and what we are doing. At the ECA, we have actually the African Center for Statistics. And we have our director who is sitting there, Oliver. He just joined us about a month and a half ago, and he came from the African Development Bank. So this is very important for ECA because the African Development Bank is a close and a key partner. And it's very important because it's the bank and the bank has the money. So since we have someone who came from there, we hope to get the money. You talked about the money. Yes, it's very important. So in terms of the architecture, I was talking about the African Center for Statistics, but we also have what we call the sub-regional data centers. We have 5 sub-regional data centers, and these 5 sub-regional data centers, they are located. One for North Africa is based is in Rabat. For West Africa is in Niamey. For Southern Africa is in Lusaka, Zambia. For Eastern Africa is in Kigali, and for Central Africa it's in Yaoundé. But I would say that these data centers, they are really at the infant stage. They have been established about now maybe 2.5 years ago. So we are still working with the center on building this architecture. So in a way, their mission, when they were established about 3 years ago, was really to focus on data and statistics and putting data at the core of policy decision making on the continent. So I cannot say that we are really yet there, but basically we are trying to build these data centers. We also have a training institute which is based in Dakar, Senegal. So we think that this is very important because the training institute focuses also on training now on long-term development planning, and at the core of it is really data and statistics. As some of you may know, the many African countries went through about, I would say, 2 decades of structural adjustment programs. And I have to say that during those 2 decades, long-term planning, long-term development planning, and with long-term development planning, data and statistics almost disappear. So what you see in a number of countries where you visit those countries, and you go to the national statistical institutions that Alicia was talking about, is that you go to this very obscure place, very difficult to find, and then when you get in, it's like a very archaic place. In many countries, you find actually that they are underfunded, hardly known, and not really living in the modern age. You go in these offices and you find a pile of documents and dust, and these are really the national statistical institutions. So they are deprived of resources, of technology, of information, and so on and so forth. However, the good news is that there is a revival of long-term planning, and thanks to actually the vision that a number of heads of state had for the African Union Commission, and where they actually adopted the 2063 agenda, which is the 50 years development agenda for the continent, and also that came along with the 2030 agenda. So because of that, there is a revival, and there is a lot of energy now around the issue of data and statistics at the core of the decision-making or the policy decision-making process. So it's an opportunity that actually we can all seize in terms of implementing the SDGs, implementing the Africa Vision 2063, and partnering with a number of organizations. So having said that, I would like to say that when it comes to the ECA, we are actually, I would say, in a good position at the continental level. But as some of the earlier speakers said, that it's very difficult when you are talking at the continental level, talking of data and average, we might not be talking about really the right picture. But what is interesting is that at the ECA, the African Center for Statistics, in a way, we are at the forefront in terms of working with the African Union Commission and the African Development Bank and a number of countries on mapping. We are trying to map at the target level, mapping the targets of Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2063. So this is a very important exercise because these two agendas have to be actually implemented concomitantly. So there is no way that we'll push only the Agenda 2030 without looking to Agenda 2063. So for some countries, the process is more or less advanced because of the resources and capacities that already exist. But I would say that at the continental level, the exercise is not completed because it's happening at the target level, and it has, at the end of the day, we now have to agree on very few and core targets from Agenda 2063 and 2030 that will be the basis actually of implementation and monitoring at the continental and the regional level. The other initiative that I think it's also important to highlight, and for which there are opportunities for partnership, but also opportunities for leveraging, let's say, big data and technology and new ways of doing business, is that ECA is working with almost all member states on the continent on developing or reviewing national development statistical systems. So it's really an opportunity in a way to bring into this review the whole concept of data revolution. And I think Alicia said very well that in some places it's not a very easy exercise in terms of convincing national statistical institutions on working on big data. But because we are starting, I would say, on a low base, I think it's an opportunity to leapfrog. Now, the other good thing in terms of opportunities is that on the continent, as some of you know, mobile technology really has revolutionized a number of things. In some countries, it's financial services, and we think that it's really a great opportunity also for us to work on this technological revolution to be able to harness data. The interesting thing is that because of the penetration also of mobile technology, and a number of countries are really open of that, is that there is this opportunity, in a way, a window of opportunity to introduce, let's say, open data and data revolution in statistics and data. Now, the other important initiative that I would like to highlight is the initiative on civil registration and vital statistics. So ECA is also leading, but with a number of other agencies and partners, UN agencies, but also private foundations. So it's also important to look at this because it's an opportunity for partnership. I think I will stop here, and thank you very much for this.
Thank you so much. As you can see, we're in good hands with these amazing women leaders in our regions. And if the data revolution is ever going to have a chance to succeed in good leadership such as this. So thank you all very, very much. We're going to move immediately now to our final session, which is the lightning commitments and contributions. The first person, and we welcome, I know some of you have to leave, so please thank you. Let's give a final round of applause.
Thank you.
So the first person is Stefan Schweinfest, the head of UN Statistical Division. Stefan.
Yes, hello. I'm Stefan Schweinfest. I'm the director of the UN Statistics Division. So everything you've heard here about data and statistics, non-traditional, new and sexy, that's not me. I'm the opposite. I'm traditional, I'm old, I'm not going to the third part. But I have to blame Sanjeev and the Global Partnership. I had a very quiet professional existence for many, many years. But that's definitely over now. Thanks to Sanjeev and the Global Partnership for arranging again a fantastic cast of speakers from the national and international level to showcase the importance of our work. Two things I want to announce. Number one, tomorrow the Secretary General is going to launch this thing, which is the Sustainable Development Goals Report 2016. This is the global report. This is what was mandated by the 2030 agenda. This is, of course, only the tip of the iceberg. I know this, and Lisa, or as I sometimes call her, Madame World Indicator, knows how difficult it was to put all of this together, because first we had to agree on 230 indicators, then we have to try to get the data from all countries, and we have heard even the advanced countries have difficulties of getting all that information. So this is only the tip of the iceberg, and there's an underlying database that will also be launched tomorrow on our website for all the official global indicators for SDG. This is number one. The second announcement is the UN World Data Forum. We've just heard we need to go not only at the global level, to the regional, to the national, to the subnational, to the local level, and there a lot of more data will be needed, the famous data ecosystems. This will require many professional groups to come together, and we thought the first important step is to really bring everybody in one big room and have a good time, and this was also recommended by the World We Count. So next year in Cape Town, from the 16th to the 18th of January 2017, we will have the first UN World Data Forum, and everybody is invited.
Jessica Esri from SDSN. Please, Jessica.
Hi, good evening everyone, and thanks so much Sanjeev and to all the previous speakers. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I just want to start by thanking the Global Partnership for what they've enabled SDSN to achieve. So I'm the Associate Director of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, and what I just wanted to mention quickly before I give our announcement is just two partnerships that have been facilitated by the Global Partnership on Data. The first is one that we've recently been pursuing in Colombia with colleagues like Sepe, who I know is over there chatting, and with colleagues from Colombia, from the Bogota Chamber of Commerce, from Amida Technologies and various others, and we're now looking at how we can aggregate and use old data systems to complement the national data infrastructure and fill gaps. So that's one. And another one that's been really amazing has been our SDG Index, which is something that SDSM will be launching on Wednesday. And that is a kind of complementary product we've put forward to try and identify some of the available data on SDG monitoring. But it's thanks to people like Project Everyone, Esri, and various others that we've been able to make it a little bit more exciting, a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more colourful, and a bit more kind of understandable for everyone who might be visiting that website. So thanks to the Global Partnership for that. The final thing I'm just going to mention is a new project we've got coming out, which I'm very excited about, which will be under the banner of the Global Partnership, which is taking place in San Jose in California. This is where we're going to have a city actively working with SDSN, with SAP Technologies, with Stanford University, and with many others to come up with a design thinking method for developing an SDG, city-level SDG dashboard and kind of set of indicators, as well as coming up with a system for how they integrate and share their data across the government. So I think it's really exciting to see local actors who are really going to be driving a lot of this change. You know, as everyone knows, more and more people are living in urban environments, will be 70% by the time we get to 2050. So it's really crucial that we engage this local government as well. So lots of exciting things happening, and huge thanks to the Global Partnership.
Wow, and
as ever.
incredible thanks to Jess and SDSN for think the next person, as we go to flip the slide, is Rachel from Project 8. Rachel, welcome.
Thank you, everyone. This has been really inspiring. As Sanjeev said, I'm with Project 8. We're an initiative of the Demand Institute, which is jointly operated by Nielsen and the Conference Board, so thinking about how the private sector is getting involved. We're also co-founded by the UN Foundation, so certainly a lot of connections back to the partnership. And thinking about how we can all get involved, I think all of us are probably quite inspired by the data. So Project 8 is a data collaborative. We're built around data, but we're really a social network in a sense. So I would love to invite all of you to join as beta users, given your involvement with the global partnership. We have already global users. We have over 200 million rows of data. So first and foremost, please get involved. Let's work together to open up more data sets, to bring them together, to collaborate and connect with one another in a very modern and digital way. And just thinking about where we're going upcoming, so a few announcements. We will be featured in the GoDan Summit coming up around UNGA Week. For those of you that don't know, GoDan, Global Open Data for Agriculture and Nutrition. So we'll be featured there. We'll also be featured in a few other events. We're pleased to announce a few new partners coming on to Project 8, so World Food Program, GoDan, and looking for new partners as well. So if your organizations would like to support this idea of data collaboration, we're focused first around food and agriculture in support of SDG 2, but aiming to go global across all the goals as we continue to scale. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Alfredo from Telefonica, one of our great partners in the telephone industry.
So thank you very much. First of all, it is a pleasure to be here. I'm representative of Telefonica. We operate in almost all of Latin America, so we are guilty of what has been said here. So the thing is, we really feel that recognizing the importance of data and the importance of data not only in itself but also for the goals that we have, also needs to have a discussion with the people where we, in the places and the countries where we operate, do not see the importance of data, the importance of how to manage data and analyze that. We have to engage into global dialogues and share our vision, and that's what we are going to do. We need to mobilize political will to promote this. So for a lot of the things that have been said here, regulation is really important, and a lot of times data are not useful because regulation doesn't allow us to use it. We have to also build a more robust and safe data ecosystem in each of the countries where we operate, and we are going to start working tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Is Dennis here? I think you might be missing, so we'll go to the next person. Gaia and Gaia and Robert from Agrawal.
Good evening, everyone. And I'm here presenting Everyone Count, who is a new partnership between CARE, Quanto, and World Vision. And I guess we are going to shift a bit to the citizen-generated data. And I want to praise Sanjeev and the global partnership because we feel that a lot of the discussion is still around official data, and citizen-generated data is still marginalized. So praise to Sanjeev that's been supporting and believing in this agenda. And so, yeah, the citizen-generated data and for the SDGs number 16. So we believe that citizens need to have a say in monitoring and assessing whether and to what extent governments are performing and achieving what they're meant to achieve in terms of the SDGs. And what is new about Everyone Count? I guess we are using a well-spread and well-tested and researched social monitoring tool called Community Scorecard. And it has been used for more than 15 years by many organizations, including the World Bank. And we know that it does work in terms of empowering citizens in building trust relationship between service user and service provider. And it is a very straightforward tool, and it is about getting service and user to score the service that they receive against a set of indicators. Then we ask the service provider to do the same. They score the service that they provide against the same set of indicators, and then they come together and they have a discussion about what is working, what is not working, and they come out with an action plan. And Care World Vision, between just the two organizations, are using it in more than 30 countries across more than 14,000 facilities, so it is already there, and it's a matter of aggregating the data already exists. But we're facing also some challenges in using this for the monitoring of the SDGs.
Thanks, Guy. So the challenges, I think, are nothing new to anyone here. Comparability of data, the quality of data, and how we aggregate data from a very grassroots, clinic, school level methodology that's being carried out there. To make things a bit harder for ourselves, we're looking at how we do that not just within one organization, but across many organizations. We've been working on a roadmap to work through the technical challenges, and how this will work is in terms of setting up country-level data collaboratives that bring together not just the partners Guy has mentioned, but other organizations that are using the same methodology. Working through the difficult issues of building trust, of figuring out how we agree and develop common data standards that we use, how we decide where we're going to work so that we can have a representative sample of the different marginalized groups whose data and voices we want to aggregate to the national level. We'll be bringing in tools like mobile devices that work offline to collect data, and we'll be looking to work with governments in a variety of different ways to ensure that that data is available to use and can be integrated with open government data. Bringing this back down to the reality, in the end, our vision and our belief is that we need to ensure that the voices of citizens are included, and we need to ensure that they are part of the process of assessing whether the SDGs are really delivering at the end of the day. Thank you.
So I want to welcome Carmel Turbo, the lead account manager from Esri, one of our great private sector anchor partners.
Thank you, Sandeep. Well, Esri is indeed very pleased to be an anchor partner to the partnership. And we are all about geography, right? I'm a geographer myself, and we're about applying geography. Many of the issues that were just discussed by the regional commissions actually are geographic in nature. Planning is a geographic exercise. Figuring out access to education involves things sometimes like elevation information or weather information to understand why some students aren't able to get to school during perhaps the wet or rainy season in certain elevations. So as most of these sustainable development solutions are going to require some sort of geographic analysis, some visualization, or perhaps really nice ways to communicate the results of this data out, Esri has created an open platform for SDG, for the SDGs and for SDG engagement. That platform has many different elements. The ability to share open data, as UNF Live does with their environmental data using the platform. Story maps to be able to communicate out, as Project Everyone has done on the International Women's Day. Analytics, and that's an area that's rapidly increasing. Being able to have insights into big data sets and understand the patterns and trends that are happening in a given place, from local to global. And lastly, dashboards. We're providing a dashboard that is specifically for being able to integrate SDG information together. And dashboards have been used for things like the Ebola response, where we partnered with WHO. Right now we're doing Zika modeling and analysis and representing that as well. So a lot of our work in these areas are, have been driven by real world examples that we've done in previous partnerships. So our announcement tonight that I wanted to make is about one group that we really haven't talked to or mentioned tonight, and that is youth. We are really excited to announce the Esri Global Content Challenge. It'll be launched in August, at the end of August, August 29th, to university and graduate and undergraduate students around the world. Because we have such a large user community who is contributing content and sharing it, we're able to pull that content together and pull out the best of it into what is called our Living Atlas. The Living Atlas will be made available to these students so they can do scientific inquiry, they can do some predictive modeling, they can do some analysis, and then represent that and tell a compelling story. And I have the list for anyone who's in the room if you'd like to see the types of data that will be available. Certainly as a global effort, some of these data sets are from other governments, things like MODIS data, Landsat data. And so this is very exciting to be able to announce that we're going to help youth design their future. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Carmel. And last but not least, by any means, Pierce Bradford from Project Everyone, who have helped us make the global goals famous, and hopefully will continue to help us make data for the global goals famous. Pierce.
Thank you, Sanjeev. This is 3 panels that I've spoken on, and every time I get put last, I'm beginning to get a bit of a complex going on. So, Project Everyone was set up to try and popularise the SDG agenda with the sort of thought behind it that the more people know about their rights, the more likely they are to be able to fight for them to be achieved. So one of the very first things we did was in collaboration with numerous partners, and Cholback and company was to create these icons and then set about trying to popularise them in many different ways, whether it be on social media or on the ground or people decorating their buildings with it. We managed to decorate the United Nations last year. We got them underwater, we got Baidu's homepage, and we had over 130,000 different billboards around the world. But we need to move on these classic icons to start taking them a step further and to start looking at what the outcomes of the goals will be. So in partnership with the Global Partnership, with Open Data Watch and STSN, we started looking at the data around these different outcomes to start bringing to life what the world could look like by 2030 if we achieve the goals. So for a succession of different targets, we've looked at what the situation was in the year 2000, what the situation was by 2014 or 2015, and also hopefully what the missing a slide, what the situation could be like once we achieve the goals. And so these sort of work in different ways. So you can see a series of slides, or we started a program of putting all of that information onto one single slide. So this is a little infographic indicating violence against women. This is an infographic indicating how much work we've got to do to achieve the goal of ending child marriage by 2030. And this looks at maternal mortality rates. And the nice thing about these is that they animate brilliantly, so you can start to have little GIFs that are easily shareable on social media or work well as part of a bigger piece of content. This is looking at education levels, about the number of girls enrolled. You can see that we've focused on gender equality for this first set. So this is looking at the number of girls enrolled in primary education, with the goal, obviously, by 2030, that all girls get the ability to finish both primary and secondary education. And this is a little animation of what that looks like. We very much hope to continue this work to kind of bring a whole range of these indicators to life in this way. And as with everything that we produce, it will be open source content, so anyone can use it, whether it be to help with NGO campaigns or in any other way that it can be useful. And that is it. Thank you, Sanjeev.
The main reason we put you last is because we knew you'd bring the energy back up in the room. And so I think you have heard some of the amazing work that is being done by individual partners and collaborations of partners. You've seen the work that are being done in the regional level, the country level. We've announced this tremendous new multi-million-dollar pilot funding for collaborative data relations, and we've launched the Toolbox. We've come a long way in the global partnership in a very short time, thanks to all of your efforts. And as I always say, and I'll say again, we'll roll up our sleeves and continue forward and continue to make action happen, because in the end, it's about leaving no one behind, and we know that data has to be critical to that critical goal. So thank you all. Please have some wine, cheese, food, drinks, and celebrate with us this great achievement and the next phase to come forward. Thank you all very much.